G'day guys, today I'm going to talk to you about customizing Plusspec for your own location, your own area and your own manufacturers and your own suppliers. I'm going to talk to you about creating materials, whether they be bricks that go on walls or cladding or roofing or whatever it is that you wanted to create in the Plusspec tool. The bricks that are coming with Plusspec already have a size. Now if you've got the American version you'll probably have Acme bricks as default, but what about if you're in the UK or so on? So if we go to our materials, you notice that we've got a brand that's associated, which is a very good quality brick in Australia, and if you're in the American version you might have Acme or a couple of other companies there, but you want to create your own because your own location might not sell these bricks and you want a size. So let's talk about them a little bit first. Let's explain this. Now it looks, when you zoom into these bricks, it actually looks like they've been laid. Okay, so the image, there's an image here and it's tileable, which means that it will recreate itself over and over. There's one thing about cladding in particular and bricks is that they have a thickness. Okay, so in Australia the standard size brick is 110 millimeters. Okay, but in the UK I've just done a bit of research on iBrick and there's a 112.5 millimeter brick, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So I went to iBrick and I downloaded an image. Let me just I'll import that image and explain it to you. So if I'll import, now I've just gone down to all supported image types here, and I'm going to go to this one here which I got off the iBrick website, and I'm going to put it on the ground and I'm going to scale it out. It doesn't need to be any particular scale, this is just for me to demonstrate. Okay, so this particular brick is 215 millimeters long with a 10 millimeter perp, which is a perp end joint, and there's a 10 millimeter bed joint, and the height of the brick is 65 millimeters and the depth of the brick is 112 millimeters. Okay, so how would I go about creating this particular brick in Plusspec? Well, it's actually reasonably easy, and I'm going to do it inside of Sketchup, and I'm just going to use a screen capture tool to do it. So first things first, I can't take a screen capture of a brick on an angle like that, and I'll explain that to you later. I want to actually go top down. So inside of Sketchup there's a thing called views, and if you don't have it on your toolbar you can just simply go to view, toolbars, and if you go down to views you can turn it on and off, and you notice it's turning on and off up here. Okay, I need to look at this square on. Okay, so it's like taking a photo that's in line, plumb and level. Okay, so I click that top view and it's giving me that. If I did brought the texture in a vertical, I might want to look at one of these, but excuse me, it's easier to make it happen on the ground like that. Okay, now I'm going to make this brick, and I'm going to associate a company with it. So how do I do it? Well, first things first is I need to go and I need to go into my wall tool, because it's a brick that I'm making, and choose a wall type that's got to do with bricks. Okay, so it could be reverse brick veneer, double brick, it doesn't matter. I'm going to use brick veneer, which is basically timber frame with brick veneer. I'm going to go to my materials. Now I want to start to create a custom list of materials that are going to suit my local area. So I go to create material. Now it's opened up in another screen, and just as an example, it showed you the existing brick that's on site there, that's inside of my drop down, but I want to create my own. So how do I do it? I'll just get rid of this over here, and I'm going to actually use a screen capture program. So inside of Windows there's a tool called snipping tool which comes with it by default, and when I click on that I can go new, and you'll notice it's a little bit hazy at the moment. That just means that we're about to take a screenshot. Now there's several things that I need to know, and now I've got a bit of an overlay on my screen there as well, which I don't actually want, so I don't know why that's come up, so I'm going to go new. Okay, and now I'm going to create a tileable image. I'm going to do this one correctly the first time, and I'll go back and make a mistake later to give you some examples of why it does and doesn't work. So all I need to do is, this is a repeatable pattern because it's actually, you know, bricks that are the same thing over and over. So I'm going to be really careful with what I'm doing here, and I'm going to try and get this correct. So I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to go down to the bottom over here. Now I've got a bed joint at the top, so to make this tileable so that it repeats itself over and over, I don't want a bed joint on the bottom, so I'm going to leave it out, and I'm going to just be shy of the end of my perp end joint. Okay, so I'm just being careful there. Now I use a program called Fast Stone Capture normally for this, but because I'm using it to create the video I can't create it now. Now you'll notice I've got the black line there, that'll actually mesh in with this black line, and the end of this brick here will mesh in with this, and this brick is actually going to go underneath it, and it's going to tile. So essentially, if you can imagine a tile. So I'm going to save it, and I'm going to call it, we can see up here it's 215 plus a 10mm joint, so it's going to be a 225 texture. And I'm just going to go iBrick 225. And I can also write in the width as well if I remember, but because I've got this on my screen I don't need to, so I might write in 1, 2, what was the size of that up here? 112.5, 112.5. Damn it, iBrick, and it's a 225 brick, and it's by 112.5. Okay, this is just for me to remember later. It doesn't matter what you call it if you can remember that name. And go save. Okay, now what I do is I go back to Plusspec and I go in here and I go create material. Okay, so that came up over here. And I want to choose my file. I think I called it IU brick by mistake there. Here it is here. And I'm going to open it up. Now the name of the file that I actually called it is in here. Now, but I only want to call it IU brick, and this is not a real brick, it's just a generic brick, so I'm just going to delete this out of here. And I know the size of the brick is 225 plus a 10mm joint, so you can see there, sorry, 215 plus a 10mm perp. So the texture size from here to here is 225 millimeters. Okay, so if I had several bricks, it'd just be multiples of. So if I had 2 bricks, if I had taken 2 bricks wide from, say, over here to here, it'd be whatever that measurement is. So we know that's 215 plus 10, that's 225, plus another 225, plus another 215. That is the width that I'm putting in from here to here. Okay, so just spend the time to get it right. If it's a brick that doesn't have different colours, there's no need to take more bricks. But if it's a mottle brick, and I'll explain that to you a little bit later, you'll need to take a larger image. Now, the maximum image size you can upload into here is 150 kilobytes. There's one particular reason for that is, if you put in a large image, your model size is going to blow out. And we try and keep everything refined because we're using this for building information modeling. Okay, so I'm going to just call it IU brick because it's not an actual brick, and I don't want to associate a brand because it's just generic. So I can go into here and go generic, and I'll create an actual branded brick for you in a moment. This is just a good example. And my wall thickness, which is the thickness of my brick, and as you'll see over here, is 112.5. It's hidden behind this dialog here. Second, grab it there. So the distance from here to here, it's the thickness of the brick, is 112.5. Okay, so 112.5, and I need to write in what it is. If it's inches, it might be 8.5 inches. Just write in inches. In this particular case, it's millimeters. And there's no brand because it's essentially just an example. I'm just clicking here to say that I haven't gone and stolen it. A lot of people spend time creating textures for you guys to use. Now, try and respect their intellectual property and create your own textures. It's not that hard, and you can do it once and you can do it correctly, and forever you'll always have this texture. Okay, so what it is, it says up here material created. Now I can just drag my original image from here into here, but there's one thing that I'm going to look at before I do that. This image is how it's going to look inside of SketchUp and Plusspec. It's tiled. I've got a good understanding of how to do it, and therefore it worked the first time. So perfect example, and there's a lot of things on YouTube about creating tileable images. Now you notice that I gave it a second. Depends on the speed of your internet how quickly this will upload to here. And in Mac versions there's other ways of doing it, and you'll actually use the sync. I'm using drag and drop because I'm using Windows, and I'm a Windows user. But if you're going to do it in Mac, use the sync button up here, and then you'll see that it'll come up. Okay. Alright, so now I've created my brick. I'm going to go and draw a wall with it. Okay. Now, my default template inside of SketchUp has been set to millimeters, and this is 0.5 millimeter. Right. But what it's going to give me is first the wall thickness. Now, if I wrote in here or drew a line 112.5 and enter, you notice it lines up exactly with the outside here. But if I go and dimension it, because my default template is in millimeters, excuse me, it says 113. It's rounded up to the next 0.5 of a millimeter. That's because it's a half a millimeter texture. All right. But if I look at it on the face, I have a tileable image that actually looks like it should. Okay. Now there's advantages of this is that if I wanted to figure out where to put a window, I can now actually figure out where the perp end joint is so the bricklayer doesn't have to cut bricks. So if I go to here and I'll put in a window, if I zoom in I can say, okay, well I want my window to start at the end of the brick and I want it to finish at the start of a brick. Okay, and if I just click outside of that, it works pretty well to textures. Okay, so that's the end of a brick. Save the bricklayer some work. Now that works from right to left. It depends on the length of the wall, and you'll notice down here that I've got a quarter brick. It's good to design to suit brick sizes, but if you don't, that's up to you. This does help you do that. So if I wanted to get this correct, I can actually just drag this wall back to suit my actual brick sizes. So I might say, you know what, I actually want it to work brickwork. So I'll go to here. And now I'm working brickwork, so the bricklayer is going to be happy, the job's going to run a bit quicker. Don't be too worried about it with a long wall like that, because they actually stretch the perps, so you've got a maximum allowance of perps and minimum. On a small wall you don't want to have cuts on a small wall. Okay, so there's a good example of creating your own texture. Now that's going to save there for next time. Now the best thing about it is every time I go and draw a house with this particular texture, it's actually going to give us the right size dimensions of the brickwork in our plan for when we go and do our 2D layout. Okay, so if I go and drill one over here, quick house, just something square, shift will line me up with my original, and now I have a house drawn with a 112 wide brick. Now that can be done with cladding, it can be done with roofing, it can be done with timbers, so you can customize Plusspec to suit yourself very, very easily. Now I'm going to get back into creating a tileable texture, and I'm going to make a mistake in this next method. Okay, so what I'm going to do is going to go and find my original image there. I'm going to go to view, square on, and I'm going to go into here. Now there's no point in creating a texture that's larger than what you need it to be, because as you can see in the model, these textures look fine unless you get right in and then they start to pixelate. That's at 150 kilobytes or less. So there's no point in making a massive texture that's ultra high definition so you can see every grain of sand, because all you're going to do is you're going to expand the size of your model, which makes it difficult to work with, and it also makes it difficult to email to a friend or someone that you're working with. Okay, I'm going to go and create a texture incorrectly now. Now I'm going to not create it square down. Now remember here, if I click this button here, it's created it square. I'm going to give you an example of two things. If I wasn't square onto my texture and I decided to do a screenshot now, I'm going to go back to my snipping tool and I'm going to create a new one. Oops, let's cancel. New. Right. And I'm going to go and try and create this texture. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to do two things wrong. I'm going to start from up here, and you'll notice on the left hand side it's not lining up with a perp because it didn't take it square. But also, to make this texture tileable, this brick, the bottom of this brick right here, should be tileable with the top brick here. So if I did it here, it would be right, but if I did it here, it would be wrong. And actually if I did it here, because there's no bed, which is the level joint, it wouldn't actually work. So I'm going to take it here and I'm going to give you an example of a bad texture. Okay, so I'm going to leave my bed out, so I'm going to start from top of brick to bottom of brick instead of top of mortar to bottom of mortar to top of mortar. Okay, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to call it wrong one, and save. Okay, I go back to Plusspec and I go and start to create this texture. Now one thing that we did is make this easy for you. I go to my materials again and I go create material, and I'm going to choose a file and I'm going to look for wrong texture. Wrong one, I think I called it. Where is it? There we go. And I'm going to open it up. Now the width of the texture is still the same. 225, I should have made that. Which is still correct because the distance of the brick from here to here is 225. But you'll notice that it didn't tile. You'll notice that it doesn't look right there. And this is a really good way to understand what's going on. It saved the last text that I made as 112.5 millimeters, but it didn't tile. That's the reason being is, so I obviously don't want that, so I'm going to close it down. And I'm just going to try and explain it a little bit better. Okay. I wasn't square on, so it actually took it wrong. So first thing I did wrong is I didn't do this. Now I didn't consider what the texture was going to look like tiled. If I'd have taken it from here to here, I would have been right. But I didn't. I took it from here to here, and I took it on an angle like that, and it didn't work. It didn't tile. So essentially what we're thinking about is what pattern will it create, and where will I take it from. Now this is an easy texture to create, and I'm going to go to a couple of websites now and have a look at how to create an actual branded product. Okay, so go up to here, and I'm going to go to a UK site here called Bovingdon Bricks. Okay, now I've just gone through and quickly found a brick here. Now there's a couple of ways I can do this. I can actually screen capture straight off here. Okay, but you'll notice these bricks are different colours. It's a mottled brick. I guess it's because we've got either this might be brick 1 and brick 2. But it's going to be a lot more difficult to create, and usually you would need a larger brick texture than this to create a good quality image. Regardless, I'm going to use this one. So what I'm going to do, if I took it from here, my resolution could quite easily get over 150 kilobytes. So I'm going to drag and drop, and not all websites can do this. So you want to get to the root image, I guess. And I'm going to drag and I'm going to drop it over here. Okay, you notice behind the scenes there it's downloading, and I now have my brick texture. I want to try and make it around about the right size, so I'm going to just put it like that, and I can scale it down if I want to, so it's roughly that's around about the right size. And now I also need to look at it from the top down. So I clicked on my view, and I'm going to zoom in here, and I don't want it too big, okay? I only really sort of want it to be around about that resolution, so I can keep within my 150 kilobyte size. I'm now going to go back to my snipping tool. Okay, snipping tool. If you can't find it, like there it is there. You can also just write in snip, S-N-I-P, and it usually comes up. Okay, right. So now I've got my snipping tool, and now I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to tile this brick. So I want the brick underneath what I'm going to do to be the same here. So if I took it from here to here, it's not going to work. But if I took it from here to here, it will work. Or if I took it from here, thinking about what's going to happen, I need to finish so that the brick underneath it is going to look like that. So from here to here I could do it. Okay, let's just see how I go. Alright, so I'm going to zoom in. Well, I'm not actually going to zoom in. I'm just going to try and get it as accurate as I can. I don't know the size of this brick, and I'm going to surmise it's 115. Okay, that would be wrong. I'd need to go to here because it wants to be tileable. But I could also go one more brick as well. Okay, so what I'm looking at is the depth of my perp and the height. Okay, you can get more accurate with this, and you can use Photoshop as well to blend. Okay, and I'm going to save it, but I want to save it as the right name, so I'll see if I can find that particular brick, and it's called Berry Grey Brown. So I'm going to copy it, Control C or right click copy. Okay, and it's Bovingdon. I'm going to actually need to create that brand as well. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Minimize that, and I'm going to save, and I'm just going to paste, Control V, and I'm going to go save. Okay, now I've just saved it into my computer. Now I want to go to Plusspec, and I actually want to grab that particular brick, and I want to associate a brand with it as well. Okay, so I'm going to go create material, materials, create material, and by default it came up with the last one. I'm going to choose my file, and I'm going to go to my berry grey brick, and I'm going to surmise that this berry grey brick is a certain size. Okay, I'm going to go open. Right, and I can see it actually tiled not too bad. It's a little bit repetitive, and I'll explain that to you, but I also need to know the width of my texture. So I've got 2 bricks now. So if I bring up my calculator, and I'm going to surmise that it was a 215 brick plus a 10mm mortar joint, so I'm going to say it right in here, 215 plus 10. Now obviously most of this you can do in your head. And then I need to times it by another brick. So I've got one full brick, it's 225 to there, and I've got another 225 to there, and I've got another full brick, which is basically going to be times 2. Alright, so I've got 225 from here to here, and I've got 215 from here to here. So really all I need to do is just add one more brick on, so plus 215. Okay, so I've got a 440 wide texture. So now I need to go into here and write in 440. Now, you'll notice it increased the size of it on the screen here. But I've also got a width of the brick. Now, this brick could have been a different width, and I'll give you an example. I'm going to leave it at 215 because I'm going to actually save this one into my library because I might actually use this brick to do a UK design. Now I'm going to go in here plus. Now what this is asking me to do is put a brand in there. So what I need to do is I need to go and associate the name of the brick company. So I'm going to go back to my tab here, and it's Bovingdon Bricks. Okay, so I'm hoping I can copy that. No, I can't. So I'm going to have to write it in there. Bovingdon. So go back to here. Okay. Write that properly. I also need to get the logo. So I'm going to go back to Bovingdon Bricks. I'm going to just screenshot this logo. I'm going to use my snipping tool again. Where is it? Here. And I'm going to create a new. And I'm going to just screenshot their logo. I'm going to try and get it roughly the same size as this area here in proportion. Alright. I'm going to save it. And it's Bovingdon Brick logo. Logo. Terrible typing. Never been a great typer. And go save. And then I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to put my logo in there. So choose file, Bovingdon Brick logo, and go open. And now I've created a brand. You can see I've also got an error there as well. Typical poor typer. Get it right though. Spend the time to get this right. Probably don't need UK because if I was in the UK I'd know I was already there. But you can put it in if you want. Okay, now I'm going to go create my brand. Okay, so now I've got Bovingdon Bricks. Okay, and I'm going to, and I've got my size, and I'm happy with this. And spend a bit of time to get it right. Once you get it right, you'll be happy because it'll always be correct. If you don't have a brand or you're just making your own text and you don't know where they're from, just make sure they're generic because in the future it will really help you out. And I'll explain why later. Create materials for template. So now I've created, and what it's doing is using the internet, it's creating this image. Now, this image here is the image. This is how it's going to look inside of Plusspec, and I can drag and drop it. So let's get rid of this here. There. I'm going to drag and drop this image into here. Now give it a second because it's got to download the texture and it's got to download also the logo. You can see I've got it there. Now if I just get out of this and I go in here and I draw a wall, submit. Okay. Oops. And now I have my Bovingdon brick. You'll notice that it's starting to replicate because it was a different color brick. You're starting to get a bit of a pattern there. So the larger image you get, the better that'll turn out. But at the end of the day, my sizes will be correct because I put them in, and I now have a brick. I can do the same with timber. So if I went back into my wall tool and I wanted to create timber sizes for my own way that they use them, over here we say the widest part is 100 millimeters by 50 millimeters in depth. If I go to create material, all I did was basically took a screenshot of something that I'd written down here. You notice that I've got 100 millimeters wide by 50 millimeters thick, and if it's inches, just write in inches instead of, so it might be 2 by 4. So this would be 2 and that would be 4 by 4, and with the inches sign behind it, and away we go. We can create roofing, we can create floor joists, we can create everything that we want to do for our own company. And really, it doesn't take that long once you get the hang of it. You know, probably in 3 to 4 hours, you could have most of your materials done. Now, we've already done all of the American standard sizes, but I understand in some companies, instead of calling the timber 100 by 50, they might call them 50 by 100. It doesn't matter. You can create that own thing, and you can also use a texture and associate a brand with that product, which means essentially when you do a takeoff, so if I did a takeoff from what I had done here, if I click up here, it's done a takeoff. And if I went to my brickwork, you can see I've got the Australoid Colony, which is this one here. I've got my IU brick, which is just a generic one, and I've got my berry grey. Okay, so I've got the quantities of those, and I can also start to associate price. So I might say, okay, well, I might have rang up Bovingdon and said, well, what's the cost of these bricks? And so I'd just go down to my berry grey, and I might say, well, they're $50 a square metre, and the bricklayer charges me 70 cents a square metre to lay them. Okay. If I go save and update my price data, it will save it to my computer. And then if I go OK, if I didn't want to do that, I would simply just click out of it, and I can change my prices every time. But I want to make sure that next time I know what the price is, because I got it off Bovingdon, and away I go. Now I can go save and update price, which I did that, and get out of here, and I can do a takeoff. And if I go to my brickwork, you'll notice that I now have $50 a square metre to purchase the bricks and $70 a square metre to fit it. So to supply and fit the brickwork on just one wall, I would have it cost me $2,759.76. Now I might also want to add in other things. I might also want to add in mortar. So what I can do, I can copy this information here. So I can simply go here, and I can go either Control A, which will copy everything, which I don't really want to do, or I can just simply go from here, and I can copy down to here, and I can put it straight into an Excel spreadsheet, and I can calculate how much mortar I want to use per square metre. I can calculate the amount of brick ties and so on, but you'll notice in here we've also got brick hardware in there as well. So if you're working it off a square metre, you can do that. There's several ways to do it, and if you look out for the tutorial using PlusSpec data in Excel, you will find a tutorial that will go into this in more depth. Look, I hope it helps you out, guys. It's very easy to do once you get the basic knowledge, and you know what, it doesn't have to be a professional to do this. You can have a 17-year-old straight out of school learn this in a day, and you can get them to go through and put all the materials in that you require. And it basically means you've got a customized piece of software that allows you to figure out what they're going to look like, so you can show your client how the bricks are going to look on the wall. You can quantify, and you can associate price with it very, very quickly. Alright, I hope that helps you out, guys. There's a lot to it, so by all means just put in questions at the bottom of this tutorial, and we'll answer them as quickly as we can. Also go over to www.plusspec.com to find out more about Plusspec, because there's a whole heap more, and this is just a basic tutorial on creating bricks. See you later. Bye.